Village of Bartlett. We begin our board meeting this evening with a public hearing for Victory Center. I call the hearing to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Kammer?
Here.
Carbonaro? Absent. Daney?
Here.
Cabrera?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Present.
President Wallace.
Here. This evening's public hearing is in regards to Victory Center. I'll turn that over to our Community Development Director, Jim Planzinski.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the required public hearing for the amendment to their annexation agreement. As you recall, they are amending the annexation agreement due to some covenants for their ability to refinance. The public hearing notice was published in a newspaper of general circulation within the required time frame, and I'm here to answer any questions. The petitioner is also here.
Does the board have any questions at all? Would anyone in the public like to make any comments regarding the Victory Center's public hearing? Hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn the public hearing. So I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Kammer, seconded by Trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kammer?
Yes.
Carbonaro? Absent. Daney?
Yes.
Cabrera?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
We are adjourned. 2018, I call the board meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Kammer?
Present.
Carbonaro? Absent. Daney?
Here.
Cabrera?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Present.
President Wallace.
Here. We've requested that Pastor Tim Chin of Village Church of Bartlett provide our invocation this evening. Pastor Chin.
Will you join me? Father, I thank you that you've given us a day that we could see you at work in and through nature and in and through many lives. And I pray for your blessing to be on this meeting. Lord, I know that we live in a community that we take it for granted so often how safe it is. So we thank you for our chief of police and our fire chiefs, just the public servants that they are. May you continue to give wisdom to this board, our mayor, and as those that will be presenting tonight, speaking from their heart or speaking from their business, may you give them clarity. May you allow them to express their thoughts well so that we can clearly understand. Continue to watch over the Bartlett community. May you continue to pour out your blessing and continue to show us your goodness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Chin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brings us to our consent agenda this evening. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered enacted in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on any items listed on the consent agenda. At this point, would any board member like to amend the consent agenda?
I would like to add items A1, A2, A3, and A4 to the consent agenda.
Is there any issues with that with other board members? Any discussion that anyone would like to have on those items? All right, anyone else? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to amend the consent agenda, which will include the minutes, board and committee minutes from April 3rd, 2018, the bills list from April 17, 2018. The consent this evening will also be adding under Building and Zoning Committee, resolution approving of the asbestos abatement contract between the Village of Bartlett and Hussar Abatement Limited for the 117 to 121 Railroad Avenue, formerly known as Lucky Jack's. The consent will be adding under Building and Zoning Committee a resolution approving of the demolition contract between the Village of Bartlett and Delta Demolition for 117 to 121 Railroad Avenue. The consent agenda will also be adding Ordinance approving and directing the execution of Amendment 3 to the Annexation Development Agreement for the Bartlett Senior Living Campus Victory Center. The consent agenda this evening, we will also be adding ordinance amending ordinance number 2004-115 and approving an amended planned unit development covenant condition for the Bartlett Senior Living Campus Victory Center. The consent this evening will also include an ordinance annexing 3.6 acres at the southwest corner of West Lake Street and Route 59 to the village of Bartlett. Also on the consent this evening is under Committee on Economic Development, the Ignite the Courage road closure request. The consent will also include under Finance and Golf Committee, ordinance reserving 2018 volume cap for private activity bond issues and related matters. The consent will also include Finance and Golf Committee, a resolution repealing procedures for municipal utility tax rebates for senior citizens, electric and natural gas tax. The consent this evening will also include under License and Ordinance Committee, the Apple Blossom Run Parade route permit. It'll also include the resolution approving the removal of a dangerous tree in the Heritage Oaks Tree Preservation Easement at 340 South Oak Avenue. We're not done. The consent this evening will also include under Public Works Committee, a resolution approving of the temporary construction easement agreement between the Bartlett Park District and the Village of Bartlett for the construction of water main improvements along the Apple Orchard Park District property. The consent will also include a resolution approving of the permanent easement agreement between the Bartlett Park District and the Village of Bartlett for the construction, operation, and maintenance of water main improvements along the Apple Orchard Park District property. The consent will also include this evening a resolution approving of the transmission main intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Bartlett and the Bartlett Park District. The consent will also include resolution approving the construction engineering services agreement between the Village of Bartlett and Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited. The consent this evening will also include a resolution approving of public water supply loan program application documents, receiving stations and storage tanks, and authorizing village administrator to sign. The consent this evening will also include a resolution approving public water supply loan program application documents for the transmission mains and authorizing village administrator to sign. The consent this evening will also include resolution approving the amendment to the multi-county municipality intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Bartlett and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And finally, the consent will include an ordinance authorizing the sale by internet auction of surplus personal property owned by the Village of Bartlett.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Hopkins, seconded by Trustee Daney. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Daney,
Yes.
Gabrenya,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Ranky,
Yes.
Cammer.
Yes.
That motion carries. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Cammer, seconded by Trustee Daney. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gabrenya,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Ranky,
Yes.
Cammer,
Yes.
Daney.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next item on our agenda this evening is the Treasurer's Report. Mr. Treasurer?
Thank you. Included in your packet is the February report. Also included is the motor fuel tax report. For January, we did receive $93,233. That's just $300 up from the same time last year. Also included is the sales tax report. We received $206,836 for the month of December. That's up $5,761, or just under 3%. So sales tax continues to do well. That's it for the report, unless you have any questions.
I don't think so. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Brings us to the President's Report. We have a couple of proclamations and Tree City USA Community Award. The first proclamation is the Building Safety Proclamation. Whereas the Village of Bartlett is committed to recognizing our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas the International Code Council that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, play, and protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely known guardians of public safety, our local code officials who assure us safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to keep America great. And whereas building codes save lives, the theme for the Building Safety Month of 2018 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2018 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure that the places where we live, learn, work, worship, and play are safe, and recognizes that countless lives have been saved due to the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, I, Kevin Wallace, President of the Village of Bartlett, Cook, DuPage, and Kane Counties, do hereby proclaim the month of 2018 as Building Safety Month in the Village of Bartlett. Next proclamation this evening is the Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper wood, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas each year on the last Friday in April, the Village of Bartlett plants a tree in celebration of Arbor Day. And now, therefore, I, Kevin Wallace, President of the Village of Bartlett, Cook, DuPage, and Kane Counties, Illinois, do hereby proclaim April 27, 2018 as the 146th anniversary celebration of Arbor Day in the Village of Bartlett, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And that is fitting to transfer over to the Tree City Community Award. I think Sarah Perry is here. Are we going to turn this over to Sarah for the Tree City Community Award? Pick your microphone, anyone.
I didn't realize I was going to have to talk, so I'm not really exactly sure, but yeah, this is the first time that Bartlett has gotten this award. Although, as a community, Bartlett has been doing the standards to be a Tree City USA for a long time. We finally just put in the work to apply for it, and they awarded it to us. So one of the main criteria is that you do as you said in the proclamation, we do a tree planting event. Last year, we participated in the Park District's Earth Day event where we passed out tree seedlings to residents. This year, to be able to be a Tree City for 2018, we'll be planting a new evergreen in Bartlett Park. And actually, it's going to be on Monday, not on Friday. So if anyone's around at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, feel free to come and see our Arbor Day tree being planted for 2018. One of the other criteria was that we spend $2 per capita on tree-related activities, so whether that's tree planting, tree trimming, tree removal, anything to do with tree maintenance. So Bartlett is well above and beyond that. And then The other was a proclamation, and the fourth criteria was having either a professional tree arborist staff member or a tree board, which since we have myself as a certified arborist on staff, that qualifies. So, like I said, we've been doing a lot of the work for a long time, but finally we're getting the credit for it. So I'll give you this.
All right. Thank you for your work. Moves us to questions. Board have any questions for staff?
Only question I have is, how's the Stearns Road Bridge project going?
Going pretty well. We probably lost a day or two from the weather. We'll see, maybe tomorrow. The water goes up, spills around the piling, but the base of the culvert extension is in. That's a big thing. So we're making progress. I think we would consider still on target to finish, hopefully early, but we'll see.
Thank you.
Is there any more issues, people getting lost or traffic-related incidents or anything, Chief? I know there's plenty of traffic going around my neighborhood now.
I'm not aware of any. My staff has been directed to be out there and visible and enforcing the speed limits, and we've had our speed trailers out there, so we're trying to do everything we can. And I know the neighbors that have come out and talked to our officers are appreciative of them being over there in the area, so I'm not aware of any other complaints.
Did you 46 give us an update on like the actual, are there any delays in bus routing or, I don't think so.
No, not that I've heard.
Okay, good. Anything else?
One question, they're doing the sewer work in Morris and Williamsburg, you know, on our side of town there. How's that going? They've been out there quite a long time.
Did you say the sewer work? I'm sorry, Trustee Danny.
Morris and Williamsburg, right? And in fact, that entire street is marked to be ripped up.
Yeah, as far as I know from yesterday, the 4 repairs they had were done. And they've found some additional things. I'm not sure exactly where, but in that area that they're working on.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All right, that brings us to the town hall portion of our meeting this evening. If anyone would like to address the board, please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and attempt to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to address the board at this time? You're getting down to your last few, I think.
This round. I'm running out of things to say, but John Elenardo with Frederick Quinn Company, your construction manager for the new police station. We are in the last month of the first phase of the project, so on the inside of the project, we're putting in carpet and light fixtures and ceilings and toilet fixtures and all the things we need to do in the last month of the project. So things are moving along quickly, and it's a very busy place inside the building. As you'll see over the last couple of weeks, concrete curbs and gutters and the improvements on the north side of the building are starting to come into place so that that area can be open for vehicle parking for the police department. So we're moving along. As I said in the written report, pardon me, that we sent over, we're scheduled to be substantially complete the 3rd week of May, and the move is scheduled for the 24th of May for the police department to occupy the first phase. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have one question. Chief, we've been on a number of tours through the police facility. Could we arrange something for before our next meeting, maybe to go through it again? Sure. I'd like to see the progress. Want to go? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Please step up to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Teresa Daniello. I'm a resident, owner, and board member of the Homeowners Association at 271 East Railroad. And we want to express our concern over the apartment building that is proposed to be built next to our building. We're concerned that an apartment building that size is going to negatively impact the value of our units, and we'd like the board to take our opinions and our concerns into your consideration in moving forward with that proposal. We understand that it would bring in more business to the area with more tenants coming in, but our concern is not only the traffic, the additional traffic that would come on Railroad, but how it would impact the value of our homes. I know it's been vacant for a while, and you may be eager to see it developed, but, we'd like you to take our interests into consideration, too.
Thank you, Teresa.
Okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to our standing committee reports this evening. First standing committee reports under Building and Zoning Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. All the items under Building and Zoning tonight were covered under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. Next standing committee report this evening is under Community and Economic Development Committee, Chairman Gabrenya.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item to discuss, and that is item 1, ordinance authorizing the sale of real estate, approving the contract to sell at southwest corner of East Railroad in Bertaux as part of the TOD plan had recommended. At this point, should I make the motion then for discussion?
Make a motion, and then we can have some discussion.
So I would move to approve ordinance 2018
40.
48
40.
An ordinance authorizing the sale of real estate owned by the Village of Bartlett, which is no longer necessary, appropriate, required for use of, profitable to the village, or for the best interest of the village, and approving a contract to sell such vacant land located at the southwest corner of East Railroad and Bertaux Avenues, Bartlett.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Gabrenya, seconded by Trustee Ranke. Is there any discussion?
This is just to authorize the sale. This isn't any building permits or development or the new PUD or anything like that, correct?
No, it does not. It just moves it on to the formal process for the site plan review, where we would hold the public hearings as we would any other development.
Thank you, Paula.
This is the first step. You have to authorize a sale of municipal property by ordinance. It was kind of a combination of different ordinances. The one we chose requires a 3/4 vote of the corporate authorities, but the contract itself is contingent on zoning approval. So the petitioner has to go through the process, and we made that clear, that even though we're approving this, that doesn't lock us into approving the zoning request. There was an issue raised last time. I think Trustee Ranke had raised concern with a credit of $8,000 for an Alta survey. We modified that, got a quote from our surveyor what they would charge, and it was $5,700. And so we said we'll either give you an Alta survey or a credit for $5,700. That'll expedite the process because they then can get started on that, and they can use the same surveyor to do their topographic survey that's needed for their engineering, as that they need to submit plans that we review within the zoning process. Also, we put a time frame in there that was not in their original offer. It was left blank, and that's 150 days to go through to get their plans in, reviewed, and then go through the zoning process. So you'll recall, they've got some things to do, including amending the PUD. This lot was part of the town center planned unit development. So there's steps that they have to take. It'll come before you, and ultimately, unless you approve of an ordinance doing for the rezoning and approval of their final development plans, the transaction will not close. But this is the first step to move it along, and it does authorize it contingent on these things. It authorizes the sale, but again, contingent on the board's approval of the final development plans. It was a preliminary drawing. They'd have to be much more detailed before it could move forward, and they would close. If it doesn't close, they get their, earnest money back and start over.
All right. Any other discussion?
Well, yes, I just want to be assured, Paula, that the residents on Railway Avenue will be notified when this is going.
Linda Treese is here, and we'll be sure to get her contact information, maybe.
Well, so, but what I guess I'm getting at, all the residents in those apartment and the condos on Railway Avenue, are they notified of this meeting?
The notification for this PUD amendment is like any zoning. Anyone that owns property within 250 feet of the property gets a written notice. There will be a notice published in the newspaper of general circulation, and there will be a sign placed on the property when the public hearing comes to light.
So how do the town center buildings fall within that 250 feet?
I don't know. I have to, what we usually, when the developer submits his development proposal, he's required to go to the township and find the surrounding properties within 250 feet. I suspect that at least I know for sure the building just directly to the west of it is within 250 feet, probably both of those. Probably some of the building that's the furthest west. I doubt that this building across the street is in that. It also would include people who live across the street and across the railroad tracks. It'll include the Hillcrest apartment people. So it's a pretty broad swath of notice.
But the Hillcrest are mainly apartments. They're not owned. I mean, you're going to have somebody that's the owner of those buildings, but it's going to be a limited amount of people, not all the tenants that are renting in those buildings. So I know whereas the condo owners are all owners, I'm just concerned that I want to make sure that they are notified as diligently as we possibly can to let them know what's going on. And
so they'll get notice because the owners, even if they're renting those condos in there, they'll show up as ownership, and then those people who are even renting those units will get notice because they're the owners, just like the Hillcrest ones.
All right. Can you folks that are from the Railroad Avenue condos, make sure you go to your condo associations and be aware of what's going on so that you can be at meetings if you want to represent the buildings in that region. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Hopkins?
Yes.
Rinky?
Yes.
Kammerer?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gabrenya?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you, Chairman Gabrenya. Next item we have this evening under Finance and Golf Committee is our Finance and Golf Committee is Chairman Daney.
Mr. President, we had two items on the agenda this evening. They were both covered under consent. We have nothing else to offer this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Daney. Next item we have this evening is under License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Kammerer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The two items we had under License and Ordinance Committee were also covered under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Kammerer. Next item is the Police and Health Committee, Chairman Carbonaro, who is absent, has no items on his committee this evening. Finally, Public Works Committee, Chairman Ranke.
Thank you, Mr. President. All of our items were addressed on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Ranke. Any new business that the board would like to discuss? Any additional questions?
I have a question.
This is your time. Yeah, before we adjourn, some of the board members had discussed possibly standing for a moment of silence to recognize one of the long-standing trustees from the board. Late T.L. Ahrens is 1 year ago had passed, so if we don't all mind standing and recognizing former trustee T.L. Ahrens, I'd appreciate it. Thank you all. Just thank her family for all the years of service that she dedicated to this village, and she will not be forgotten. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Daney, seconded by trustee Camera. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Camera?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gabrenia?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.